I'd like to welcome everybody on behalf of the IB News and the Chamber of Commerce as we host the candidate forum tonight. If I could have, just so you know, probably the best acoustics is right here in the front row. So if you guys want to move on up, oh really? Come on down. We'd like to welcome all the candidates. Thank you for taking time out tonight to be here and available to address questions from the panel and from the citizens here in the Valley. I'd like to welcome everyone here again tonight. And this is the first evening of two nights. Tomorrow evening we'll finish up at 6:30. And I'm going to turn it over. My name is Sonny Moore. I'm the president of the chamber. And Dan is going to mediate, and he's going to come up here and kind of share with how he's going to run this tonight. Dan?
I don't know if Sonny said that he was the president of the Illinois Valley Chamber for the 2016 year. What we're going to do is we're going to give everybody 2 or 3 minutes. I'll let you know when it's 2 minutes, and then we'll buzzer go off at 3 minutes. If you don't need 3, take whatever you need to. So after that, I'm going to go through and I'm going to ask each candidate a question or a series of questions based on things they've said or done in the past. After that, we'll probably take a little break and then take some questions from the crowd. This is just so I can forewarn everybody, this is a candidate forum by the Illinois Valley for the people of Illinois Valley. And so I really would appreciate that if questions are kind of geared to us. I'd like to hear the candidates give answers that show that they've actually given any thought to Illinois Valley and what goes on to us out here. So that's kind of what I'm looking for. I think that's what our readers are looking for and the people here tonight. So with that, we're going to go alphabetical, and we'll start with Ms. Casanelli.
I always feel like Kilroy over here. Anyways, my name's Sandy Casanelli, and the primary reason why I'm running for commissioner this time is to alert everyone about what's going on regarding the proposed takeover of the county by the state. It's imperative that we keep our sovereignty here in Josephine County. We don't need commissioners who will abdicate their authority to the state. This current board wants to circumvent the will of the electorate who voted down 8 levies and taxing districts since 2004. It was all for the tantalizing allure of some short-term matching funds. We'll need to keep an eye on the sneaky developments regarding this issue. It will impact our wallets in a very big way if they succeed. There is no current fiscal crisis. It's simply a fictitious creation of the commissioner's own making. It's not based on fact. Crime statistics do not support their premise, and neither do the actions of the current board. They steadfastly refuse to give money to the sheriff from road reserves, unexpected SRS Title I revenues, and general fund money originally allocated for unnecessary water testing. The latest proof of their hocus pocus occurred at the first budget session on Monday night. They presented a status quo budget that essentially gave each department the same as they got last year, some even a little bit more. This would not have been done if there truly was a fiscal emergency in Josephine County. Let's see. I just wanted to say,
1 minute.
I want to run on my record. While I was in office, I advocated for allowing the smoke jumpers to renovate the county buildings at the Ivy Airport, for 50% reduction in planning and building safety permits, for a participatory relationship with the public at meetings. Citizens were allowed to speak on agenda items during regular comments and even 30-second rebuttals. The PEG station airing of our meetings, I encouraged, and I also had easier access to documents at the meetings. I opposed certain things like the Paradise Ranch boondoggle, the canola fiasco, this already 5-year strategic plan that implemented taking resources from the public without compensation. I allocated for, I just didn't want to do the spending of 4 years of SRS payments in 3. And I hear a buzzer, so that's probably the hook, right?
That is it.
All right,
I
thank you.
apologize. I wasn't paying attention, I was listening. Next we have Dan DeYoung.
Good evening and welcome everybody. My name is Dan DeYoung and I'm running for position number 2, Josephine County Commissioner. I was born and raised in Grants Pass, Oregon. I graduated from Grants Pass High School and went into the Navy for 4 years from 1968 to 1972 with an honorable discharge in 1972. My wife Pam and I have been married for 46 years. We have 2 children that we raised here in Grants Pass and in the Valley, and they have long since gone because there wasn't enough jobs for them to stay here at and earn a decent living. That's a concern to me. I think we've got a lot of issues that are facing this county, that have been facing this county for a long time. One of them is the timber harvest. That's been going on for pretty close to 20 years. It hasn't gotten much better. We've spent an awful lot of time and effort trying to get the timber back here. They thought they won something when they upped the timber harvest to not quite to 500 million board feet, but it got to close to 300 million board feet. But come to find out, that all went to the north end of the O&C counties, and the south end was all reserve timber. Going to set aside Southern Oregon's timber so that they can cut on the northern end of the state. No surprise to any of us because Ron Wyden and DeFazio were both from the Valley up north. So I don't know how much further we can take that. I'm all in favor of suing the United States government for their breach of the O&C Act from years and years, but that has been going on for a long, long time. I don't know how successful that's going to be because the defendant becomes the U.S. Forest Service, a defendant becomes the United States government, and it's going to be going to the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals or to a federal judge, and guess who that is? That's also the defendant. I don't know where you would appeal this to be able to win it. It's a conflict of interest from start to finish, so I don't know how successful we're going to be at that. We have some natural resources around here, and there's been a long time push for what they call Siskiyou National Monument. When they saw that was an awful big chunk to take, they started taking little pieces. They're taking baby steps. On the Wild and Scenic, they've moved it to the mouth of the Applegate. Now they want to move it all the way to Lost Creek Dam. They're going to continue to take little baby steps until we all live in a national monument status. If you read some of the rules and regulations for a monument, it locks up all your natural resources, which would include the redwoods, all the chrome mining down in Patrick Creek, Hannah Nickel Mine, all the timber that we have in the Siskiyou and Rogue River National Forest. Plus there's some real underlying rules in a national monument, such as you're not allowed to own or possess an assembled firearm in a national monument. I can't deal with that. You're not allowed to build an open fire anywhere in a national monument or leave the pavement on a motorized vehicle in a national monument. I can't deal with any of those. So we have to watch that very, very carefully. That's on the national level. Locally, we've just had marijuana legalized in Oregon. There's a lot of players in this game.
I apologize, I didn't give you your 2-minute warning. I'll let you give a sentence for you to wrap up. Yeah.
Okay, wrapped up, thank you. We'll talk later.
Oh, I'm listening to what you guys have to say, and I'm not paying attention.
Do you want me
Yeah.
Then you'll finish it.
No, I'll do the timer if you want.
Good evening, I should say. Keeping track of my time here. My name is Nathaniel Duarte, and I'm delighted to see so many of you out here tonight. It's good to have a good crowd here. I'm a young entrepreneur. I'm the owner of Technology Solutions, which is a local to Grants Pass computer coaching and computer setup service. I'm the president of Rogue Valley Networking Toastmasters. Toastmasters is a leadership and communication group, and I've also served in that club as the vice president of education and the treasurer. I'm a homeschool graduate. I graduated at 16, participated in high school speech and debate, And right now I'm currently studying at a school called Trinity School of Natural Health, which is a school that teaches alternative medicine and natural health, and I've received a diploma from them and called it a certified health specialist. One of the most common questions I get asked is, why are you running for county commissioner? And for me, the answer is quite simple. I'm running for commissioner because I'm concerned about the future of this county. I've been watching local politics for about 6 years now, and the more and more I've watched, the more and more I've paid attention, I've been concerned with where our county's heading. I've been concerned with the lack of positivity, the breakdown of communication. I firmly believe that the biggest issue that our county is facing is a crisis of communication. Obviously, communication affects every other issue that we have. We have the leadership of the issues that our county faces, and all those combined. But after watching local politics, I realized that I could sit and I could stew about what's going on in our county, or I could jump in and try to make a positive difference, and that's what I'm here trying to do. My platform is made up of 3 positions: prosperity, safety, and freedom. I believe we need to work to make a business-friendly environment in Josephine County. It's under prosperity. I believe that we need to look for long-term funding solutions to our public safety issue. I'm not a proponent of any new tax levies. I also believe that we need to make proactive efforts to protect our freedoms and protect personal liberties of those who live here in Josephine County. So again, I'm excited about the future of this county, and I'm not here because I think I have all the answers or I have all the solutions to all the problems, but I'm here because I believe we can make a positive difference.
Hi, I'm Harriet Harris, and I'm not going to give you too much information about me because you can read it in your voter's pamphlet, or I have it up here. I want to tell you that I disagree. I think there is a funding problem in the county, but I think we have resources that can address that. Timber, obviously, you're going to hear lots about timber, especially listen to Ron Smith tomorrow, or when he speaks. He knows more than I'll ever know about timber. I was in the military for 24 years. I was successful in the military because I realized what the mission was. I realized how to get the mission done, and then I found good people who could do the job, and then as an officer I took credit for it. That's how I plan to resolve the problems in the county, is identifying good people who have passions and knowledge in areas that I don't, and utilizing those folks. And we have committees all over the county. I'd like to see more ad hoc committees, especially as we start integrating. Mark tonight said that I hadn't been perfectly clear on my stand on cannabis. I'm for it. It's legal. It's prosperity. We need another cash crop in the valley. So let me be perfectly clear on that. I am for it. But it takes some work because we're going to have to respect people who are living next to growers, and not everybody is for cannabis, and it's going to be like mines or timber. Additional people working the roads, and additional people using the water, and so those are going to be issues of respecting each other's rights and being good neighbors to each other. So I would like to see that worked out. I understand that Sean Christian is one of the candidates for position 3, and he has been very successful. I understand. I have not gone out to see for myself out in Williams in dealing with that, but we'll address more of this stuff later.
Good evening. My name is Keith Heck, and I am one of the 3 sitting commissioners. And I have to tell you what I have done, not necessarily what I will do. And some of the have-dones are swallow your tongue a couple of times and that kind of thing. But we have done some things. And one of the things that bothers me to some degree is that when Josephine County is portrayed as this basket case county, and everybody's sort of either nuts, Looney Tune, or getting on dope. That's a sad, sad picture to paint. Do we have a funding issue? Yes, we have a funding issue as it applies to the criminal justice system. Criminal justice system being the district attorney's office, the juvenile justice, the juvenile corrections, the community corrections, and the sheriff's office. Yes, there's a funding issue. The balance of the county is not in a funding issue crisis. Most of the, not most, many of the departments, and I've got them listed out here, we can talk about it if you would like to. Many of the departments we have in the county, such as Parks, is a self-funding department. They do not take any money out of the general fund. There are several other departments as well. So when we talk about the economy is a difficult situation, it is, but as it applies to the criminal justice system. So that's the big hurdle we have to get across, and certainly it is a serious issue, but it is not the whole county is going down the tubes and going over the dam. I've been now 3 years, and I think there's been some real good progress has been made on a whole host of different issues as far as the county commissioners are concerned, of which I'm one of 3. And I have appreciated the time that I've had this year, or these last 3 years, and I trust in the kindness of you, that you will listen, and that you will make a decision and say, you know what, I'll stick with this geezer for another 4 years, and we'll make it work together. And that will be the efforts. But I would just simply ask that you would listen. Many, many stories have been out and told about what one does and what one doesn't do. And they've never asked the one that they're being accused or accusing them of doing those things. It's amazing all the scoundrel things that I've done, and I didn't realize it was me. But if you want to have a question, ask the question. I'll be happy to answer them straight up, and without a song and dance and going around the mulberry bush and these things. But I appreciate you coming, and I look forward to an interesting evening. Thank you very much.
I'm Dale Matthews, and I'm running for County Commissioner. I go to more of the County Commissioners' meetings than they go to of their own meetings. In fact, I go to more County Commissioners' meetings than all of the other candidates combined. I know a little bit about what's happening there now. You'll get a chance to vote for 2 people. I'm simply going to suggest that one of the people that you vote for, that would be me, would know what to do on day 1. Know what happened yesterday, what's likely to happen tomorrow. Has a bit of a history behind them. That way you don't have to wait 9 months to a year while someone gets their sea legs under them, because I already know. The first thing that we need to start off these commissioners' meetings with is an invocation. Not a big deal, but at least a small one, because we can use all the help that we can get. The second thing is, I want to start off on day 1, object 1. Start sending letters, which we've already started to do, some of us, to the federal government saying, hey, you've got a contract with us. We expect you to live up to this contract. You have a contract with us. The way I figured it out, the math works out, we can get 10,000 letters in their hands. That's not a small thing. We can get 10,000 letters in their hands, which is at least a start. It's more than 0 letters. Second thing that I know that we need to do is we need to pay attention to law enforcement. It's a funny thing. I'm one of the people that said, I agree with the people when they vote saying our base rate is 58 cents, 66 if you count with the pets. It's 58 cents, and the people have said again and again and again, this is the money that you get. So we get a sheriff that runs and says, well, I'll live by that, and then doesn't. A second sheriff says, well, I'll do that, and then doesn't. County commissioners say, well, I'll live with that, and then they don't. It's your choice. I believe you should come first. The thing I would do is I would take those lofty commissioners from that high horse up there, and I would bring them down to a podium. They should face you. When the department heads make a report, they should be facing you. You're the stockholders, you're the stakeholders, you're the most important people in the audience. That's what they should be doing. There's money to pay for law enforcement up to a certain point. Look what's happening with this new levy that they're considering for the schools.
30 seconds.
This kind of thing can be done, but nobody wants to do it because it doesn't solve the big problem all in one step. We're going to solve this problem. I will answer any questions that are aimed at all the rest of the candidates, but I will not answer questions from Dan Mancuso that are aimed only at me. That's fair.
Well, you guys are all in for a rough night.
Good evening, I'm Joseph Rice, and a lot of familiar faces in the room. Thank you for coming out and taking the evening to share with us, challenge us, ask the hard questions. Part of the things is, many of you know what I do, what my background is. I believe in the protection of your individual freedoms, liberties, and your individual pursuits of happiness. Government needs to get out of your way to pursue what you want to do. We've heard a number of ideas in funding the crisis. Josephine County is a beautiful place. We have good people here. We have prosperity if we choose to pursue it. With this, in community safety, we've launched it down here. Gunter's in the audience, many of you are here. We've started a community watch. Cave Junction is the pilot program. And it goes to looking at how to solve our public safety or community safety issue, where we start the neighborhood watch to the community watch, and we start bottom up to the county. And you tell the county what the needs are here in the Illinois Valley. You can't have prosperity when the federal government comes in here and arbitrarily, administratively, unlawfully withdraws 101,000 acres for one use, minerals. You can't touch it now. We've developed, not us, the federal government's developed a museum mentality, look but don't touch. That's hurting everybody. It's hurt rough and ready, it's hurting minors, it's hurting recreational use, it's all over the place. And we tolerate and we allow it. That must change. It's our community, it's our public lands, we must use them for the economic health of this community and all of Josephine County. This mineral withdrawal is illegal. They never did an economic impact study before they administratively withdrew it in support of legislation of Senator Wyden and Congressman DeFazio. That hurts this community, it's wrong. Sometimes you have to take more direct action and you have to pursue the courtroom. You have to go both ways at it. We have to put pressure, we have to force the federal government into coordination down here. They've got to start coming to the table and talking. We have to fund government without tax levies, without increases. People in the county are suffering. We cannot ethically ask them to make decisions between pay my mortgage or put food on the table. Everybody's had a constraint since 2008, 2009. Families and businesses have had to do that.
30 seconds.
We're at a point now where we're looking at job retention, and we have to be able to clear the red tape away from businesses to promote job creation. We don't create jobs, but we can create a business environment so the community can prosper. And that's the direction we need to start heading. I hope we have a lively discussion tonight. Please ask those hard questions.
Good evening, thank you very much. My name is Paul Walter. And Damon, by the way, I'll answer your tough questions. I have to because I saw Michelle Pinker back there, so I know I have to.
Just for the record, I'm Dan Mancuso, not Damian Mancuso with the John Birch Society, and I'm the publisher of the Illinois Valley News, not the editor of
Well, you got it in for me already. Anyway, I'm the editor of newsreviews.com. Online publication, the print publication and online publication. A lot of you sitting here are already receiving your Southern Oregon email alerts, and those that are not, you can step forward, give me your email, and we'll sign you up. We got 5,000 people from Josephine County already signed up. Now, I'm also the graduated with honors from School of Hard Knocks. And I'm very proud of this because I have my common sense intact. And that's what a lot of the leadership that we have today don't have. You see, most of you know, and I know there's a lot of people here that are pretty wise, that we're losing our country. We're in a mess. We're at the edge of the cliff right now. This is the year that we're gonna either make or break the country depending on who gets into office. And the reason we're there, because you have been voting for the wrong people in office, and they basically screwed you. Now, some know what they're doing, some think they know what they're doing, and some don't know what they're doing. Nevertheless, we have to vote the right people in who are gonna work for you, not for the system. System is corrupt from Washington, Salem, all the way down to Josephine County. I mean, we got people in office, in our commissioners that can't put the bottle down. We got a guy that wants a code enforcement police state. So we got a problem. And we need to do our homework very carefully. And I mean, this is not a joke, because I love this country. I came from a communist country. I came from Slovenia, same place that Donald Trump's wife comes from. And I'll tell you something, when I came here in 1958, I served in the U.S. Army, by the way, for 3 years, over in Germany. Thank God I didn't go to Vietnam. But anyway, I was at awe when I came here. I couldn't believe that you could be anything you want to be in this country as long as you work hard, save your money, and you're honest. Sky was the limit. We didn't have that in a socialist country. We had cradle-to-grave government. They told you what you could be. If you wanted to be a bricklayer and there's too many bricklayers, you can't be a bricklayer. Government told you have to be something else. But when I came here, you could be anything you want. Wow. I mean, I was at awe. Couldn't believe it. No country on the planet existed like America. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing. I love this country. This is the greatest country on the face of the planet, and we're slowly losing this because we have been voting the wrong people in office.
Okay.
Now, there are some good ones running, because between the two positions, I think there's 18 of us, and there's a few good ones, and I'll tell you as the day progresses, which they are, so you can choose wisely. Thank you.
So good evening, and thank you for coming out. My name is Tony Webb. I was born in Grants Pass, and my grandparents moved here in 1941. I moved away for school and a career, and then I came back in 2009. I have 4 children. I have 5 grandchildren. I've primarily been an internet marketing consultant for several years and a strong community advocate for the whole county. My educational background, I studied international relations at a college in Denmark. I got a bachelor's in business from Marylhurst University. I have an MBA. I have certificates in project management, human resource management, change management, and several internet marketing certificates. I've been a small business owner of 3 small businesses. I've worked at several large corporations in finance and marketing. And what motivated me to run for Josephine County Commissioner is that I felt I had the background that we need to get the county back on track. I have finance, marketing, business administration, human resource management, and I'm a lifelong community advocate. When I moved back in 2009, I got very involved volunteering on several boards, attending city and county meetings, and traveling around the county, talking to the residents, going to their smaller meetings to learn more about what they felt the problems were and what the causes of the problems. I also attended meetings up at the state level and learned more about what the state was and wasn't doing for Josephine County. The 3 big issues that I feel are facing us at this time are the lack of economic opportunity and jobs, the lack of long-range planning for public safety, and transparency, accountability, and listening to the citizens by the commissioners. In the lack of economic development opportunity, one thing that separates Josephine County from most of the other counties is that we do not have any type of economic development office for the county to promote Josephine County. And we're missing out on a lot of grant money that goes to nonprofit corporations that do economic development. And so I've started the legal paperwork for the Josephine County Economic Development Alliance.
30 seconds.
And I started an entrepreneurs meetup. The other issue is how will public safety be paid for? And I think we have the resources in the county to pay for quite a bit of it. I'm not in favor of a levy until I've exhausted every other avenue. So I look forward to answering your questions. Thank you.
All right, I'm gonna start, we'll start at this end, work our way backwards. I'm gonna ask everybody a question. They can choose to answer or choose not to answer. They'll get 1 minute to respond. So, yeah, you know, Tony, yeah, you might as well. And I apologize, Tony, I wasn't as prepared for you because I had it in my head, I didn't know you were coming. It was my apology, I didn't realize, I had it in my head you weren't.
I told him.
So I went out of the pamphlet, and then so when I made my list, I skipped you because you weren't there.
You know me pretty well. I think you can come up.
There's two major issues in the Illinois Valley right now. It's money and marijuana. With the marijuana, it's going to boil down to land use. Earlier last year, the county commissioners attempted to ban marijuana grows on RR5 property. As commissioner, would you back a move like that? Would you be for or against any RR5 changes that prohibit growing marijuana?
Would I stick to banning marijuana?
Would you vote to ban it or continue to allow it?
No, I would not vote to ban it.
Okay. And actually, from now on, it'll probably go a lot faster. I don't know if you guys will be able to hear. If you can't, let me know and we'll figure it out. And I want to ask everybody on the line here the same questions. Mr. Walter, how do you feel about banning marijuana on RR5 lots? And for those of you who don't know, I'm sure you guys do, but rural residential is what RR5 is.
No, I know RR5 stands for rural residential. How does the people feel about this? They live in the area.
Good question. In the Illinois Valley, people are for growing on RR5. Because if you ban, if I understand the law correctly, it's an agricultural product now. And you can't ban one without banning the other. So if you ban growing marijuana outdoors on an RR5, now you've also banned the farmer that grows at the farmer's market. Because they can't grow a crop on their land anymore either.
Well, see, the problem I got is, I'm studying what Colorado did, because that was the first state that legalized it. It's a disaster. I mean, it's a disaster because the kids are getting high, and there are lots of accidents. They're not learning properly in school. This is all, you can see it. It's all over CNN, Fox News. It's causing a lot of problems. So it's something that you really have to look into, because once you do something like this, and it gets out of control, I don't want to be our county to be known as a dope county of USA. You know, so it's something that I will have to look into before I make the decision.
Mr. Rice?
I'm going to stand, and this is an interesting question. Marijuana has been legalized by the people. We have a representative form of government, period. With that, we are tasked with how do we manage it. We have to take the discussion into recreational use and medicinal use. Recreational use, I believe, like grapes or wine, an agricultural crop, needs to be treated like alcohol and managed like alcohol. The medicinal side also. I don't believe banning a specific product that's been legalized by the citizens is an appropriate move, but we have an opportunity here to responsibly come together, look at it, and manage it. As we look at how we balance this argument back and forth, it's got to be a discussion of the growers and everything. I also put out, though, Josephine County High School has a 63% graduation rate. I was at a seminar 2 weeks ago, It Takes a Village, and the principal was trying to figure out how to do this. He was being faced with students saying, I'm just going to go marijuana like my father is. Okay, I understand that, but let's produce educated students. And I would challenge the industry to come together and set a standard. And part of that is being a responsible steward of a developing industry, just like anything else has been. And I would look at... Hello.
Hey, that's your time, by the way.
What I would look at doing is something from the industry to go to the kids in the county and say, we're not going to hire you unless you have a minimum of a high school diploma. But we have an opportunity here to shape it. Colorado was mentioned. Last October I was out there. Where are you from? I'm from Oregon. And they knew Williams, Oregon out there.
Mr. Matthews?
It's a legal product. It's legal. And half of the county, 2 people voted it down, just 2. Half of the county says, okay, and the other half says, no, I don't like it. Imagine, I love your example, imagine that there was a new gold rush here, and a lot of high school students were saying, I'm not going to finish high school, I'll come back for my GED after I've done a little gold mining. Well, it's kind of hard to blame them for that, because should they stay in school for 3 years? I would, but I can understand how they might like to put a little money in their pocket in the meantime, while it lasts. So there's a bunch of different problems. It has existed here for a long time. Marijuana has. What are we supposed to do? And the smell and all the rest of that. We're going to have to cooperate, because this is one of those things that just goes all over the country. It's both legal and illegal, and legal and illegal. We're going to have to decide what we want, but the thing that we really ought to be looking at, look at the social consequences about bringing a bunch of people in here, and they are going to follow in here on this, where there's a new gold rush that's happening, and they're going to be bringing along with them a lot of new social values.
Crime.
Time.
Probably both.
Dan,
Yes, ma'am.
ask the question again, because...
All right, the question is,
Thank you.
and they're good
RR5.
answers, but the
Yeah.
question is, as county commissioner, will you support a ban on outdoor growing on RR5?
That was the question, and I'll try to answer that question. Whether we like it or not, there are laws. Laws have consequences. If you just cannot go out and flaunt the law, you have to work in the system to change the law. That is what we are, the commissioners, that's what we are trying to do. We have had the RR5 issue now being looked at by the new planning director, though he has been an interim. We have a new planning director coming. And that whole issue is not settled. It needs to be looked at. Are we supporting it? Yes, I could say we have not yet voted on it, but all 3 of us have commented in the public situations more than once that we are in favor of revising that to some degree to where it is possible to grow on RR5 as well as other agricultural lands.
Mr. Heck, if I understand it correctly, on RR5 it is legal to grow commercially as long as the product is sold on the property. So the way the code currently stands, every farmer, many farmers at the local farmers market are in violation of the land use code.
And that could well be, and that's part of the inanities that have to be looked at. Because if they are going to apply across the board agricultural products, they need to be consistent in the application. You just can't take one and say, no russet potatoes. I mean, there has to be some other reason for it, and that's the temptation to do it with marijuana. But it has to be a law across, and that's what we're looking at to, from a planning directive first, to begin then to address it in the planning part legally.
So I agree, as Keith Heck has pointed out, these things do have legal ramifications, and so there is work being done on that. This is expanding the thought too, going back to the schools. You know, we touched on the levy that was going to have police in the schools. I'd just like to throw out, I think maybe instead of police, have dog handlers looking for weapons and looking for drugs. Again, drugs are killing us with our kids. Meth, heroin, and there shouldn't be underage utilization of cannabis either. So, and with dogs in our schools, we wouldn't be having the PERS tail. So that would be a good thing. So, but again, that's going to be on the ballot for you guys to decide what you want in your schools. But that would be my suggestion.
Harriet, the levy that's proposed for the schools, I believe, is keeping the officers under the PERS level. Is it that, if I understand it correctly?
Yeah, but it's also my understanding that those officers would rotate. They wouldn't be at all the schools all the time. And but yeah, so that is my understanding as well. Should we just pass the?
That's fine.
Could you repeat the marijuana question again?
RR5, would you support a ban on outdoor growing of marijuana?
And what is RR5?
On RR5, which is rural residential, 5 acres or property.
Yeah, are you talking about in the city?
No, that would be county. An RR5 would be everything is zoned. An RR5 is anything smaller than 5 acres. That's a residential home, like say Ken Rose. Most of those lots, if not all of them, are RR5 or RR10 maybe.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so I would be inclined not to support a ban on it. You know, one of the things as I think about the whole cannabis issue right now is throughout my campaign I've tried to take a very neutral position, and not because I'm trying to ride the fence and play it safe, but because I liken the issue with cannabis to the prohibition of alcohol and the repercussion and just the cultural adjustment to it. As we came off the prohibition of alcohol, how the culture readjusted to it. I think we're going to see the same thing with cannabis, and we're still in that period of where things are changing, people's opinions are changing, people's opinions are being shaped. So I think it's an issue that we need to be very careful with, not to over-regulate, but and really maintain an open mind and work with the different environment that we have.
Well, the marijuana law just came in, I think, a year ago, close to a year ago. This is all brand new to all of us. This has been, the growing of marijuana is just an agricultural thing. It's been going on since the 60s. There have been people breaking all the laws all along, and then all of a sudden now when it's legal, all of a sudden the people that are trying to regulate it to a certain amount, all of a sudden we're breaking the law. In the city of Grass Pass, and I'll do this real quick, because I abstained when it came to outdoor growing in the city of Grass Pass, because I couldn't follow, my oath of office said that I could not follow state law and federal law. If I voted for it, I broke one of the laws. If I voted against it, I broke the other one. So I abstained. I have since then taken my oath of office without the word laws in it and agreed to follow the Constitution. There's 3 factions at risk here: medical, recreational, and then there's that black market that comes around all the time. All 3 of them are in here, but we have a process. We have a process for changing planning laws and zoning laws. I think Mr. Heck alluded to it, that there's already a proposal underfoot from the new planning director.
Time.
I think we need time. Thank you.
Dan, I have a question for you real quick. The changing a law or an ordinance, what is the reason behind it? Is it because the leadership, the city council or the county commissioners don't like it? I mean, because there's I don't see any reason to change a law or an ordinance unless there's an overwhelming problem with it. So at whose discretion are you changing ordinances?
I agree with you.
Yeah.
In Cave Junction, you're used to it. It's not a big deal. I don't know, most of zoning changes and stuff are complaint driven. So I'd ask, how many complaints? Where do they come from?
Well, I've learned that the devil is in the details in every contract or change in zoning, everything. So I'm not going to say yes I am or no I'm not going to support a change in our local land use code. Personally, I am dead set against marijuana use recreationally. I can see the medicinal benefits for it, but you know what, as a county commissioner, I'm not, I don't feel it is my duty to impose regulations on an industry. It's not my place. I live by some people that grow, 4 little trees or plants, and they're the best neighbors I have. They got a big tall fence, and what they do on the other side of that fence, I could care less about.
Time.
Oh, sorry. Who's next?
Mr. Walter. Walters?
I've been called worse.
Walter.
Call me whatever you want, but don't come in late for supper.
Which one's correct?
No S.
No, that's Walter. All right. Since being a county commissioner is a management position, what is your work history? And what jobs have you held where you had managerial and budgetary responsibility?
Well, that's a good question. When I was 38 years old, I had my first home paid for. Cash. No mortgage. I owned for 30 years a business called RV Doctor, mobile RV repair service. Came from San Diego, moved up here and succeeded here as well. Now I am the editor of newsreviews.com. It's a very successful website. We get about sometimes anywhere between 1 and 3 million hits a day. It's very lucrative. We take in donations, advertising, and video and book sales all over the country that we ship. And I have common sense. I know when times are tough, what to spend, how much to spend, what not to spend. For example, what the commissioners did here, they spent $78,000 testing city water for contaminants. Now, to me, that was stupid because we live in the county, we're in a well. So why would a county spend $78,000 testing city water? There's something wrong with it. The city should pay for this. That $78,000 that they spend could have put a deputy on the road. Now, there's other things that I can mention. I can't think of them all because I didn't write everything down. But I mean, this happens all the time. So is my time is up?
Very good point, though.
He's not even checking the times.
He's got it. I gave up after the first 2 times, Sandy.
Same question?
Yes, sir.
My background is I spent 17 years in the Army, military officer, so I always oversaw troops. I'm the person that did all the work that Harry took credit for. But a helicopter pilot, I've also worked for large companies in domestic and international operations. I've worked in aviation, so I've worked in a really complex regulatory environment. We've always had to meet a bottom line. Especially when you're dealing with multi-million-dollar assets and moving them locally and internationally. So that's challenging and frustrating, very frustrating. I'm also a small business owner locally here and managed folks there and worked through that process in the county. And that's been part of the frustration, some of the regulatory things we have to clear out to make it business friendly here and promote folks to come down here. At times in my career, I've overseen over 200 to 300 people, multi-million-dollar budgets.
I've been working in journalism and in television since I was 16 years old. I won groups of 5 people up to 30 people. And the most important thing is that you have to turn out a product that's good enough for people to understand within a few minutes sometimes. Also, I'm a partner in running a nightly, that's every night of the year. We're coming up on 500 shows in a row. Show for about an hour talking about local politics. Because we know what's happening in local politics. We follow it all. We know where all the skeletons are buried, and yes, I could say something about every candidate, but I'm not going to. Let's just talk about what the solutions are. So yeah, I've had more than enough experience in making sure that things get done on time and under budget. That'd be refreshing.
So you don't have any experience with managing a budget and staff because...
No, I just answered that.
Well, actually you didn't. Could you give us an example of a job, a company, a time in your life when you actually, that newspaper...
Doing one.
You have no budget. You have no staff.
This will not be the Dan Mancuso show.
Doesn't have to be. I'm not looking for the job.
Before I became a commissioner, which entails the budgeting aspect, for 2 years I was on the budget committee for the Josephine County. Also then I ran for 13 years, I ran the Gospel Rescue Mission, and that involved supervising not necessarily a lot of strange folks, but a lot of different folks, as well as a staff that got up to about 11 men and women at the peak of our time. And going back, smaller things, I mean, the house and service and all of that kind of thing, but basically the biggest effect in the last 20 years has been at the mission for 13 years and also on the budget committee with the county and as a commissioner.
So in my time in the military, my emphasis was manpower and personnel compensation issues. So I have handled those. I've worked in joint commands, and I've worked with military and civilian personnel. I will tell you that one time I worked under a Marine, and he gave me the nickname Harriet Beecher Stowe because I cared about people. He was making fun of me, but he also always ranked me #1 amongst all of his officers, again, because I got things done. In crunching numbers, it hasn't been the kinds of numbers for fixing roads and that sort of thing. It was generally analyzing how many people do we need to bring into the military, how many people are going to be retiring over the next 10 years, and at what pay grades and levels do we need to replace them. And crunching numbers is crunching numbers, so I've usually dealt in the millions, but numbers are numbers.
Hey, Harry, were you a commander?
Captain.
Captain.
Navy, not Air Force.
I'm going to answer this question the same way I did last night at the Grants Pass Forum. And to be perfectly honest with you, I don't have the financial budget experience or the employee leadership experience that some of the others on this panel have. But you know, as I think about the budget and different things related to that, I think one of the biggest issues we see within budgets, just government budgets in general, is the lack of this one single principle, and that's that you're spending other people's money. And that's a missing principle when handling budgets.
I have a very short work history that I'm very proud of. I was at Buckhay in Gooding, Idaho for a year. I worked at a gas station, Chevron station, for 3 years. I joined the Navy for 4 years. I worked at Rogue Valley Heating as their service manager for 9 years, and then I started All Seasons Heating and Air Conditioning. And for 30 plus years, I owned and operated my own business. I signed the front of the paycheck, and I've signed the back of paychecks, but the front was very important. I've had to meet payroll on every other Friday. I've had to take some of my own money to meet payroll at times. I learned from that. I've been on the Grass Pass City Council for 6 years, and that puts me on the Grass Pass Budget Committee for 6 years. I also am on the Rogue Valley Area Commission on Transportation, where we approve state highway improvement projects, some of which is right through your town. Those were all went through what they call the STIP process at Rogue Valley Area Commission on Transportation. That's millions and millions of dollars. I'm used to a lot of money. It's kind of like playing golf. You hit the ball a long ways the first shot, but then your last shot's a little finesse shot to put it in the hole. Then you got to turn right around and hit it hard again. That's the way budget is. Everything's got a different price tag, and you have to put those into perspective and be very careful that money and numbers don't lose the magnitude that you're playing with other people's money.
Well, I've worked on my own since I graduated from college with a degree in marine biology since I was 22. I have never been a burden on my family, my community, or my country. I started out, got my big break in science, working at a sewage treatment plant. Yippee! I worked at NOAA. I was a merchant marine for Exxon on tankers. I taught craft classes, and most recently I was a commissioner with managing over $100 million budget and 427 employees. So that's my life in a nutshell.
Well, I think I'm unique in all of the candidates in that I have the education and the experience in finance and budgeting. I have a master's in business administration. My personal experiences, I've owned 3 small businesses. The largest one was a $2 million annual with 13 employees. I've also worked at a large corporation in finance, and this corporation was $1 billion capitalization on the New York Stock Exchange. We evaluated the budgets of the 5 divisions, and I was on the team that evaluated one of the divisions to be sold. So I have a lot of experience with budget, finance, both in small business and large corporation.
Mr. Rice, Mr. Duarte actually brought it up, and Mr. DeYoung kind of capitalized on it. As commissioners, you're spending our money. And a good way, in my experience of knowing how well someone's going to treat my money, is how do they treat their money? Do you pay your taxes? Do you pay your credit card bills? Do you have judgments and liens against you? I would like to know, all of you, I mean, do any of you have any judgments or liens? Have you have any unpaid federal or state income taxes? Are you have any wage garnishments if you're even employed? What's your personal financial situation like without telling us all the intimate details?
Yes. Tell us everything.
Well, he'll give you 2 minutes on this one.
It seems like we're going down a rabbit hole. It's simple. No, I don't have anything against me. The only current debt I have is my home mortgage. I carry 0 debt on credit card. I don't owe anybody anything. I paid all my taxes. Everything's up to speed and current. So I tend to live simply within my means because I can. We need to.
This question is actually for me. Yes, I owe some money to the IRS. There may be some people here who fall into that same category. Yes, I owe some money on a credit card. I think it's about 3 years old. There may be a few people here to fall into that category. No, I don't own anything at all on student loans because I got good enough grades that I never had to borrow any money, and that's a huge chunk for a lot of people. So what have I learned from that? One is I'm not running away from any of it. I certainly plan on doing it all. Second, I said, well, I don't want the total amount that could be paid to a county commissioner because that's not what our local charter says. That's our local constitution. I'll take 30. That's what it says. It doesn't say 0. It says 30. I'll take that and I'll donate all the rest of it back to charity. Yeah, it's going to be a hit for me, but if you're not going to follow the local constitution, why are you running?
Directly, no. I've never had any liens, judgments, or any such thing against me. My wife and I have been very fortunate in that sense. I have no unpaid back taxes or any other such thing. Pay my wonderful taxes every year through clenched teeth. But no, there's none of that at all. Being Mr. Matthews brought up the salary thing. The charter written in about 1989, the final decision was made and it called for $30,000. I have tried for the last 4 years, every budget session, to ask for, and you have to ask for it, to have my position 2, salary lowered to $30,000, or $30,000 to $60,000. Adjusted for inflation in 1989, $30,000 in 1989 is about $57,000 today. So it's within the boundaries. It has not passed. The first time I did it, it came the closest to it. It was 6 of us on the committee. There was a 3 and 3, which meant that it went down to defeat and lost the last 3 years. But I'm applying for it again this year. I'm asking for that judgment to be made. I don't think it is up to you to pay for my donations. And I want to, I'll be happy to share with anybody, if you want to see my taxes this year, how much money we gave and to whom we gave it. I have no problems with that at all. And it was over about 12% of our total salary. But I don't think it's up to me to look to you to pay me money so that I can spend it on donations that I want to give. I'd much rather have my salary set at a $60,000 level, which is basically in conformity with the $30,000, which also, by the way, was ruled unconstitutional by the state of Oregon.
I always stand up because the camera can't see me hiding down here, so, I don't want to brag too much because my husband and I don't have any kids. Those of you that have got kids, that's a big financial burden. So when I say that we are very financially comfortable, we joke that when God doesn't bless you with children, He blesses you with earlier retirement. And so we were able to retire on my salary and have been able to donate time back to the community for the last 20 years. I have gone on record as saying that I will give 80% of my salary, and that was a great point that Keith is saying, that basically you're going to be paying me to donate it back to nonprofits in the community. So I'm getting smarter at these doggone forums. I may try to go with Keith's idea here and get my salary lowered, but we are very fortunate that we do not have any bills. We pay everything, and that's my story.
I'm sticking to
And
it.
sticking to it. Pardon me?
Donate to the sheriff.
Donate it to the sheriff, that's right.
No, I do not. I try to be very conscious of, doing tax returns and all of that, both in business and personal. Try to be frugal as well. I may not agree with all the different taxes and regulations, but I do think it is necessary to fulfill those requirements.
Well, I'm 66 years old and I've had a mortgage payment for 37 years, just like I'm sure most of you did. I've been blessed enough to be able to pay it off. I inherited 2 homes. My wife inherited one from her mother, and I inherited one from my mother. We have those, one of them is a rental and the other one's for sale. Each year as a city councilor, we have to fill out a statement of economic interest. And I think Keith has to do the same thing as a county commissioner, as will everybody, whoever is there. We talk about, well, I want to lower the salary. When the $1.40 a thousand levy went out, I checked the box yes, because I looked at my own finances and I could afford it. When I checked that box yes, I already calculated how much that money would be, and when the levy failed, I wrote a check anyway for how much that dollar, what my obligation would have been had I just paid the $1.40. I wrote it to the Josephine County Sheriff. It bypasses the general fund, it goes directly to the sheriff, and he can cash that and use it for his use. Mr. Heck, I think if I give him this idea, he may do that. Every month he can write a check directly to the sheriff, and it skips everything. But I put my money where my mouth was, as did Pat Fahey from SOS Alarm. Connie Roach, the county assessor, did the same thing. Carl Wilson did the same thing. Dennis Weber did the same thing, another city councilor. So I put my money where my mouth is. I am very fortunate. I don't have anything, no credit card, because I learned that really fast, that principal and interest, everybody needs to study that. And my assets far out exceed my liabilities, and I'm very comfortable. But you know what? I've worked to get there. None of it was given to me. I did it all on the sweat of my brow. Thank you.
I do not have any liens. I do not have any credit card debts. I pay my federal and state taxes. I make my own clothes. I own my own property outright, no mortgage. The car I drive is a '95 Honda Accord station wagon, and I'm happy not having a schmaltzy car with a payment that I have to have. I just wanted to tell you, here's my W-2 from 2009 when I was a commissioner. A gross pay was $70,000. The reported wage was $68,000. Federal income tax, state income taxes, SSI, and medical came to $17,836. I paid back that first year every single cent of money that people contributed to my campaign. It was $10,530, and I gave away 20% of the money that I received. It was another $14,000. I netted, I took home, spent on me $25,956. So that's where my money went.
Okay, I own my own home. I own my car. I've never had a lien or a bankruptcy, anything like that. I pay my bills in time, and last time I checked, my credit score was about 820. So I think you're safe with my management skills, money management skills.
Well, I'm the same way as everybody else. I own 3 homes, they're all paid for. The cars are paid for, we have no credit card debt. And as far as judgment is concerned, the only judgment I have, my wife's got a judgment on me, but that's about it.
That's a contract.
At this point, I don't know if these people want to take a break, go to the restroom, and we'll come back and we'll let Mr. Moore ask a question, then we'll open it up to you patient people, if that's okay. So why don't we come back here and say 10 minutes? Okay.
Well, as we get started on the second half here, I just have a question that I'd like to pose to each of the candidates. First a statement and then the question, but as long as I've been in Southern Oregon, it's been just about 17 years now, and all of my time in Southern Oregon has been here in Cave Junction, Josephine County. It seems like all of Southern Oregon residents have felt a little slighted. You know, they feel like the support and the funds from the state somehow stop somewhere north of Grants Pass, Josephine County. And I think, you know, a lot have said, you know, we feel like we get the short end of the stick, financially speaking. We even had some say that, you know, we feel like we're stepchildren, you know, we're second class. And so my question to each of the candidates is that if you're elected as commissioner for the Josephine County, we have the same similar perspective and problem here. Is that most of the folks on this side of the county feel like they're treated as second class, as stepchildren, and that the support and the funds somehow stop at Hayes Hill. So my question to you is, Commissioner, what would you do to fix that problem?
Thank you. Yeah, that's been a concern of mine since I moved back here, is that a lot of the attention is going to Grants Pass, and there's an attitude, and I've seen it in Grants Pass, of a us versus them out in the county, and that's why I've spent a lot of time visiting the town hall meetings and just going out and meeting the neighbors and the businesses from Wolf Creek to Hugo to Merlin to O'Brien, Williams, Cave Junction. I would just continue that activity that I'm already doing. I think we also need an advisory board of people from different areas to get together with the commissioners and discuss their issues. I see a real lack among the commissioners, and definitely I think it's even worse in the city of Grants Pass, where they don't see the county as a whole. They see it as Grants Pass is the only important entity in the county.
Well, this is really very simple. Let's say that you have 2 kids at home. You favor one over the other, you're going to create a problem, aren't you? The kids are going to hate each other. It's the same thing with the county. You treat, when you pass the law, or an ordinance that considers all the citizens of this community. You do what's right for all. You don't favor one over the other. You don't favor that part of the county over this part of the county. Everyone has to get the same treatment. And then you won't have a problem. And that's the problem that we have. We have partisanship, and that group is favored over this group, and that's why we have a problem in this country. And I wouldn't, if I was a commissioner, I would never do anything like this. What I would do is I would consider all the citizens equal. I don't care if you're liberal or conservative or you're rich or poor, everyone has to be treated equal, and there won't be any problem then.
It's a good and true question. We have to develop a sense of community. I live up in the Grants Pass area. Most of you know I'm down here quite frequently working on different projects. And I think I advocate the sense of community. We have to develop that, we have to work with that. One of the other things is working down here with the community watch. Start bringing resources out of the city into the county. We are a representative form of government, we must represent the people. I think creating, and we're actually working on zones. And if we can look at geographically throughout the entire county and establishing zones, those zones are naturally going to have a leadership structure. You have it here in Cave Junction. They should be interfacing with the commissioners. We should be having meetings down here and interfacing. We need to move the sheriff's department out of the city because they are fully staffed and put resident deputies out here in the community. Have the community develop a relationship with those deputies. Have the community watch your neighbor, learn your neighbor, introduce yourself. Those are things that have to happen to develop that sense of community and outreach. Too much concentration sits in the city. It needs to come out here to the county. Part of that is also increasing transparency, open and honest. Open meetings, open forums, no closed door, no backdoor garbage. It's your government. You have a right to know what we're doing, how we're doing it, and then tell us, agree, right or wrong. But yeah, we see it in Salem. I also advocate, we've got Josephine County. We live here. We can get diluted by what's going on in the state, but this is our neighborhood, this is our community, and we have to work together with that. And it's not going to be a government fix. We can come together as a community fix, but it has to come down in here. I understand it, I feel it.
We don't need any more backroom meetings. We're going to move all of the county commissioners' meetings to the Ambassador at a time where you can participate. Now look, we videotape all of these things and we put them out there for you to see. There's no reason in the world that we couldn't have a camera here during a county commissioners meeting so that you can come up and ask your questions right here. Why do you have to travel to Grants Pass to ask your questions? That's a non-starter. Since you're part of the public and supposed to be the most important part of the whole meeting, this is super simple to do. We know because we've been doing it. So, you need to be listened to while you're there. That's still not happening. You need to get an equal opportunity to speak so that people can hear you. You need to get immediate feedback from your commissioner saying, okay, I hear you. The first item on the next agenda is your question. Because we're going to get someone that's going to answer that for you. These things are pretty much no-brainers, but you have to have the will to do so. I do.
The question has to do with why not come out here and talk to the folks, I think that's a summary of the question. I make it a fairly regular, I can't say it's every month, but I'm just trying to think, it must be fairly close to that. But I do come out to the Illinois Valley. I wander around, meet different folks, go to, I'll stop by Deer Creek, Noah, an event. And talk and visit with folks. I usually come by and see different individuals, businesses. So I'm out here on a fairly regular basis, and I still don't have a great finger on every pulse beat that goes on in the county by any means. I don't think anybody would be that presumptive. But yet on the other hand, I think I have a fairly good idea of what goes on. You call the office, my office, and I will generally answer the phone if I'm there. If I'm not there, you leave a message on the phone and I will call you back. And it'll be a fairly short turnaround time. It's not a 3 days or a week or whatever. I'll call you back very quickly. As there is the landscaper who calls all the stinking time. And I always call you back. But it's a matter of communication, and I believe strongly in that communication, but it's nobody is hiding out, I should say. I'm not certainly hiding out by any means. I like to get out and talk to people and try to find out what's going on.
I will say Keith's out, if you're not out here once a month, it's probably once every 6 weeks if it's not once a month.
And so, I was at a commissioners meeting when somebody came during their 3 minutes, was railing at the commissioners, and I asked him afterwards, I said, so did you ever go to see them during office hours or talk to them? And he says, no, you know, if I'm gonna make the trip from Cave Junction all the way up here, I want the most people to hear what I have to say. I don't wanna just meet him during the office hours. So, okay, that makes sense. And so I would suggest that we, and this isn't actually answering your question, but building more on what these two had to say, that if somebody has an issue, that we do come down off the dais and circle the chairs and deal with that issue so that irritant isn't taken back and poisoning the community wherever it is. But back to the actual question, gosh, you guys have a wonderful area down here in terms of for tourism, and when you get Bill Ertl up here with position 3, that's his platform, is developing the 199 corridor, the first entrance in from the coast, you know, and we ought to have a welcome kiosk and highlight the tourist attractions that you have down here. Now, I live in Wonder, which is halfway between Grants Pass and Cave Junction, so I have more of an affinity to this area than I do to Merlin and Hugo. We always drag our guests down here. I'm a member of the Wine of the Month group at Forest, and my drug of choice. And so I do frequent Bridgeview and Forest. But also a gentleman was talking to me at the break about why did I want to be a commissioner, and it's for housing. And we have a real housing issue. You have more room for development down here, actually, than we do in Grants Pass. And so that's an issue. But getting back to the public safety, some of the money for building low-cost housing, they don't want to do it if there's no police presence down there.
Each one of the people seated here are running for or are Josephine County Commissioner, and not Grants Pass Commissioner, not Hugo Commissioner, not Williams Commissioner. And as such, I think the big issue here is that we need to have the attitude as the county of listening and valuing people's opinions. That's what it comes down to. When people don't feel like they're valued, resentment starts to build, and they don't feel like their opinions matter, and they start to lose trust in those representing them. If elected as commissioner, I would be working my hardest to be one who listens, one who hears what people have to say. Part of my platform has been to hold regular town hall meetings, just myself, the mic or 2 mics, to hear what people have to say.
Well, first off, I hear what you're saying when it comes down to are we the ugly stepchild. I think all of Southern Oregon is considered to be all the ugly stepchild. When I sit in the Rogue Valley Area Commission on Transportation meetings, I hear all about the infrastructure money, the huge amount of money to build roads and bridges, and it's all coming down from the federal government. But yet by the time it gets to Portland, and they skim off what they want for the third bridge across the Columbia, and then it gets down to Southern Oregon's Department of Transportation in Medford, and they have the Highway 62 bypass for $128 million, Fern Valley Road interchange for $86 million, and the list goes on and on and on, all in Jackson County. What did we get? Climbing lanes. That's what we got. So I feel your situation is the same way. Going back to urban versus rural, there's a big, it seems like a difference or a philosophical difference between the people that live in Grants Pass and the people that live in the county. There are 8 different demographic areas in Josephine County. None of them have the same set of principles, values, way of lifestyle, everything. So it's tough for 3 commissioners to cover all of that on a routine basis. I'd like to see us have a business meeting in this room once a month. You're an incorporated city out here. Why can't we have one business meeting a month out here to address your problems in this area? Because you're different from Wolf Creek. I went to the Wolf Creek parade the other day, and it was really neat. You know, people say, "Oh, wow, what'd you see up there?" I said, "I saw citizens. I saw little kids in Easter bonnets. I saw little kids going on an Easter egg hunt in the park, just like they do everywhere else." When we talk joint and cooperation between city and county, when I got on the city council 6 years ago, we were not allowed to talk as a city council to the Board of County Commissioners. We now have quarterly joint meetings where the two governing bodies, the city council and the board of county commissioners, have a workshop together to discuss problems and figure out what we could do to help each other. After being on the city council, I think I've got some real insight as to how the city works, so when I get to the county, I'm gonna know all the tricks that they've got up the sleeve and in their bag.
Time.
Well, there are different areas in the county, and my experience has been people like in Sunny Valley, they don't really want the commissioners nosing around in their business. And I really had that attitude even with the people in Cave Junction. It's your city council and your community, and most of the problems can be resolved within your own community. But I don't think there's anybody in Illinois Valley that would say that I didn't think that they were equal citizens in the county. I'm not taking credit for the Smoke Jumper Museum because the smoke jumpers are the ones that put all the energy and the work and the money in. But what I can say is when there was a need, I was there because I negotiated heavily for allowing the smoke jumpers to build that museum. The county commissioners, county legal counsel, and the former airport's manager wanted to bulldoze down those buildings, and I fought like hell in order to get them to build that museum. It's the same way, I believe, that the county commissioners have a perfect economic development project still over there. I understand that the smoke jumpers want to make it an active smoke jumper base, and what an asset that would be to not only this community but all of Josephine County. So that's what I did, and I've had a real nice relationship with the people, I believe, in Cave Junction. If there's somebody disagrees, I'd be happy to, talk to them.
All right. We started, right, Tom?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And actually, before we move on to the crowd questions, I do want to point out in 2015, the Park Service estimated that more than $4.5 million was brought into the community from the 72,000 plus people that came in to visit the Oregon Caves. The 75 jobs that created gave a cumulative of more than, or of almost $5.7 million in economic generation because of the Oregon Caves. It would behoove the county commissioners and the city of Grants Pass, in the event that one of you is still on that come January, to really take a look at the way you perceive the Illinois Valley. I don't know of anything in the city of Grants Pass or in Merlin or in Williams, other than marijuana, that generates more revenue and more money into this community. And I think it's time that the Illinois Valley and the Oregon Caves, we start to get a little respect from the other people on the other side of the hill. With that in mind, I'm going to open up to the crowd. And I had that gentleman was up before I even got my first thing out. Steve Lyon.
All right.
Do you want them to come?
Can I go next?
I get 3 minutes?
You get a question. A question, not a statement. A question.
I'll read it real quick because I only have a short amount of time. But my dad was a cop in Long Beach for over 20 years. His most famous statement was, "The only solution to crime is the fear of swift and just punishment." If you read the sentencing in the Courier, which I read 5 days a week, I'm familiar with a lot of you folks on the panel. If you read the sentencings in the Courier, there's neither. You steal a car, you get caught with meth and heroin while you're doing it, they give you 20 days sometime later in the future. You get 20 days. They catch you in a stolen car or with switch plates. They cite you when you drive home in your stolen or switch plate car once they've impounded. There's a lot of ways to get around this, but 20 days. Where's the deterrent? How about a year and a day? The state's been asking the county to give lesser sentences so they don't have to build more prisons. We need more prisons because we got a lot of jerks.
Steve, where's your question in all this?
Well, you stole my thunder because my question, in order to do due diligence as a voter, I need to know your creds. So my question was going to be, how do you conduct your personal finance? That gives me a clue of how you're going to spend our money.
Okay, you're gonna budget multi-million dollars.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's what
I'd like
he's
to know
saying.
your credit history, your credit score. Mine's 821. I own my house and I don't know anybody, and I've never beat anybody out of anything. Okay,
He
so,
already did that.
what?
He already
He
did
did that, he stole my thunder, that was one of my questions. I'd like to see background checks on some of the folks here. Okay? And, you know, just real quickly, Sandy Castanoli's been a commissioner. She was recalled by 71% of the voters because they called her Castanoli. Dan DeYoung, I've read about you in the paper. I
Steve,
don't know
is there
you.
a question?
But you gotta listen to people when you want to pass a tax. The young guy there is unspoiled, he's a virgin.
Hey, Steve.
I'm gonna vote for him. And the Navy captains, and I got no bones to pick. Keith's done a great job. We have one person up there that's the county malcontent, and he's videotaped every meeting there is because he's the county malcontent.
Steve, my question for you is, will you please stop?
I'm gonna run for commissioner.
This gentleman, who are you and where are you from?
Joseph Andrews. Can I just speak?
You can do whatever you want. As long as there's a question.
Oh, yeah, it's a question. My name is Joseph Andrews from Kirbyville Farm. I'm a believer in the inalienable right for a person to build their own home. And in our county, there's been people that have been building homes, their own home, sustainably, using Oregon cob, using straw bale, and the house is mortgage-free, termite-proof, almost earthquake-proof, fire-proof, and safer than a conventional house. But they're being harassed by the planning department. Would you be in favor of abolishing the planning department, or at least adopting an owner-builder code, which Humboldt County and Mendocino County both have, works very well, where you just pay a fee to the county and they leave you alone to build your home the way you want to build it? So that's my question. Would you be in favor of either abolishing it or adopting an owner-builder code? Thank you.
Huh? Yeah, if you guys take a minute to answer that, I think it's
But we'll leave the microphone. Okay, well, that's a good question, and since I'm really in favor of the development of hempcrete, which is hemp and lime mixture, you know, I'm definitely in favor of alternative building materials. Although as far as the code's concerned, I had an interior design firm in Hawaii, and I can tell you that without some codes, the builders can really go awry and build things that don't hold up. So we need some codes, we need some checking on the building as it's progressing, but I'm certainly in favor of alternative ways of building.
because you're from the government and you're here to help, right?
Well, what we need is common sense. We do need codes. We do need a planning department because you can't build something that's not safe. So a lot of it is done for your safety to make sure that the structure doesn't collapse. But they do go overboard, over-regulate. And it's one extreme or the other extreme. And instead of being too far on one extreme or too far the other extreme, we need to find a safe balance to where you're not over-regulating and yet you're still keeping people safe. And that's why we need common sense, so that's me.
You bring up a good point. Everyone has a right to pursue their happiness as they see fit, as long as it doesn't impact somebody else. We're a constitutional republic. We protect the individual rights. With that being said, if you want to build your house out, whatever you want to build it, you should be able to do that. To have a waiver, if I come and purchase your home from you, it's incumbent upon me to do my due diligence if I purchase your home to make sure it's up to code and standard. I accept that responsibility. It's unreasonable right now that if I want to put on a tool shed in my home, I have to pay an $800 development fee to figure out where my property line is. That's stifling growth in Josephine County. With the planning department, yeah, we have to have some basic codes for public safety, and I look more to the buildings we're in as opposed to private landowners. Private landowners, it's your land, do what you want with it, but you take the responsibility. Next.
You can finish your thought, just time.
You guys are like, quick. No, I think you have the right to pursue your happiness. Do it. You should be left alone. Government interference needs to stop.
planning department sounds boring to some people. It is not. You're not going to have any economic development in this area without a good planning department. Safety is super important. I was there at the meeting where the previous legal counsel said to the county commissioners, it's hard to believe he said this, "In ignorance is bliss." If you don't know what's happening that could put us in jeopardy, then you can't be held responsible. Why was there silence in the room at that? So, it's pretty obvious that we need to be more flexible in helping people achieve their dreams. It's also pretty obvious that there's a lot of people that could be held liable for things if we're not safe about what we do. It's a balancing act.
The point being that nothing is done in this day and age without concern for lawsuits. And that's always the part of the back reason. Now, that can become the pressing concern, and then that's paying attention to the wrong voice. But there has to be some sort of understanding of what is going on, because the county's been sued, even my last 3 years, for one, ridiculously, I would say, ridiculous situation that common sense would have told you, if you want to do that, you probably get hurt. But so there has to be some code. I do not know what the owner-builder code is. I will look at it, and I will ask the planning director about it. We do have a new planning director coming. She should be coming up the first or the middle of May. She should be here. One of the questions that we asked her specifically was on the planning department, the feasibility of having people coming in and wanting to build. What is your understanding, and how would you respond to them? Her answer was, I want to see them come, and how can we help them succeed in what they want to accomplish? We all said, amen. Because that really is our concern, to see this labyrinthine building code process turned around to become what it is. It's intended to be, to establish minimum standards and concerns. There's a lot of state laws that apply to these things too, but I don't think we need to add to them this unnecessarily. But yeah, that's a good question, something I wrote down, I'll ask about.
And especially since you've got the precedents in other counties and other states. This is exactly the kind of thing that I alluded to in my opening statement, was that we're not going to know everything about everything, but there are people who have passions about different issues and have the information about them. And then I would like for you to let us know what needs to be done at the county to make that a reality for you, and if it can't be resolved at the county, how we can bump it up and get it resolved at the state level. And that's truly what I see the job of the commissioners. I mean, sure, we go to department head meetings and that sort of thing, but you are the ones that we're here to serve. And so your passions are going to be, you're going to be the ones who have the knowledge. We can't know everything about alternative housing or all the different things about which people have passions, but we can try to make it a reality for you.
First off, I want to thank you for your question. I wasn't aware of that kind of thing happening in Josephine County. And I worked on a film project about 6 months ago. It was a homesteading webinar series and talked about those kind of natural buildings. And yes, I do think you should be able to build your own home. But I think this issue gets back to freedom and the over-encroachment of government. Government loves to protect you from yourself and try to run your lives and thinks that it can do a better job protecting you than you can. And obviously there is a role for government, but too often I think we see the overstretch of authority in trying to micromanage how people live their lives.
Yeah, this question can be answered with, you come in and you say, I want to build my own home and I want to do it my way. And it could be as simple as saying, okay, we have an owner-builder code. And that code is nothing more than a waiver that says if it falls down, you're not going to come back on the city or the county or anybody else. That you want to build it your way. The only thing you've got to be cautious about is if you take out a mortgage, you're probably not going to be able to get a loan on it, and you probably won't be able to get it insured. But that's entirely up to you. That's your right, your business, your land. we talk about permits and things that, I think it was mentioned that you get a permit for a lean-to on the side of your house and it's $800 permit. In my experience with the building department, when you get a permit, it automatically goes through a tube right over to the assessor's office. And I think there's an awful lot to that statement. But I think that the liability waiver would probably cure just about all of it. But as Keith said, there's going to be a new planning director in here in the next within a short period of time. I think that's a question that would be one of the first ones you should ask. Thank you.
I think it's a marvelous concept, and I hope you follow through and present it to the commissioners and see if we can't do it, if other counties have done it. Especially, the reading that I've done on the straw bale houses, they're cool in the summertime, hot in the wintertime, warm in the wintertime, and they're quiet. That's the thing that attracts me the most about it. When I was in office, we used economic development money for 50% off on building safety permits and planning fees. And, that to me is a better use of economic development money because everybody has access on an equal first come, first served basis. And I would encourage the county to do that. The fees are exorbitant, in my opinion, and it's basically because that's what the county uses in order to pay for the personnel. But it doesn't seem to be a lot of... Oh.
You can finish your sentence.
Doesn't seem to be a lot of building going on lately.
All right, I got time for maybe one or two more questions. Yes, ma'am.
It's
Anita.
not one, it's a different one.
Do you want the microphone?
Yeah, I'm the one, right?
Yes,
Yeah. And it's not because I have an internet in the newspaper, and the Ivy News. Nothing to do with that. Anita Savio here, and with respect to the lack of law enforcement here in the valley, the whole issue. We know that a lot of people here in the Illinois Valley refuse to vote for the levies because they feel that we're not getting our fair share of law enforcement. We're not getting the deputy patrols that we need, so on and so forth. Someone suggested an idea, and I'm just curious what you folks think of it, that we have a law enforcement district here in the Illinois Valley, just as we have an Illinois Valley Fire District. And so we would have a levy just for this district to pay for deputy patrols. Would also have to include, of course, 911, operator time, jail beds, the whole schmear, basically. And I'd love to have your thoughts on that idea. You want to start?
It sounds like a really good idea, if that's what you really want to do here in the valley. If the people want more law enforcement, so be it. I mean, it's a wonderful way to do it. Put it before the voters and let them vote. Most of the people, I live in Merlin, and most of the people in the county where I live, and north of that, Sunny Valley, basically they want to be left alone. We don't have probably the problem that you have. The crime stats don't say that we're going up in crime. Actually, we're going down in crime in our areas. And so most of the people in the county have gotten used to protecting themselves with dogs and firearms and alarms and fences and the whole gashmere. I realize it's different for you, so if you guys want more law enforcement, you are more than willing, it seems, to pay for it because you've got your contract deputies.
And Sandy, just so you know, 2016 is still new, but 2014, just at the Cave Junction substation alone, there was 166 crimes reported. In 2015, there were 260 crimes reported. So it shows an obvious trend skyrocketing. Just for example, in 2012, we had 41 crimes, 98 in 13. So just going back 2 or 3 years, we've almost tripled our crimes that are being reported just at the substation.
Yeah, I would believe it. It's not that way though. It's not that way in like Merlin in my area.
Sure.
Actually, the stats say that they've gone down.
Maybe
Yeah,
should-
we talk about the 8 demographic areas in Josephine County because Sunny Valley's got a different set of values that you have out here. And if you want to have, I'm for the district, first off, districting, that puts the control back to you on what you want to pay. It also is going to enable you to have resident deputies in your own little sheriff's department out here. I think Gil worked on that. What that will do is, I think one of the major complaints that I heard all through the thing was response time. If you dispatch people, sheriff's deputies from the courthouse every day, out here, you're 45 minutes to an hour. If they live here, you're down to 10 minutes. That's effective policing. I think the product needs to improve before you're willing to pay for it. But I'm all for a district, but I think that's got to go through the process again, and it has to go for voter approval. That's a decision that Cave Junction needs to make. And it sounds to me like your stats are starting to lean that way, that you've got a real good case for a district out here. And I think that, well, with the last levy failed by 46%, 46 to 54, what happens to the people that agreed to pay and they want to pay for something? They don't have a product to pay for.
Yeah, I'm not too well versed in this subject, but I think this gets back to, the answer is pretty simple. Let the people decide. I mean, you could put it on the ballot and see what happens, what the voters think. This issue all gets back to that one principle of communities deciding on what level of public safety they want and how much they're willing to pay for it.
The fun part of this whole process of running for commissioner has been getting out and talking, listening to people. And when I was in Merlin, they were talking about, at the Merlin Forum, having a justice of the peace and the difference between how much of the revenue from a ticket you get to keep as opposed to, so if I cited you for speeding, which would never happen, but that you get like 40 cents on the dollar if it's your own cop as opposed to 2 cents on the dollar if it's the Oregon State Police or the county deputy. So at least those were the stats that Jan and Merlin gave me. But so there is some return on that, not just in terms of the product, as Dan was saying, but and the safety, which is really your top priority. But there is some financial remuneration there as well, as I understand it. My husband will tell you I've been wrong before.
Districts are determined by the people who live in them. So if you want to vote for it and understand the full cost of it, that's your free choice to make. That's an easy case. The idea that something is going to result in a large influx of money, well, that's not going to happen because of the whole law. I mean, if you write a ticket here, the OSP writes a ticket here, the sheriff writes a ticket, none of that comes to Josephine County. I mean, it goes to those who know. If you have a justice of the peace here and the sheriff is writing tickets for the city of Cave Junction, now that's a different situation. You can get money, and I don't know what the truck with the, I thought I saw Ryan in here. He might have some idea of how much the city of Cave Junction actually benefited from the tickets that were written by the, and adjudicated here in the Justice of the Peace. But it's not going to bring in a couple $100,000 a year. It might bring in $25,000, $30,000 a year, and that would certainly be benefit. But you can form a district if you want to form it and lay out all the rules and regulations, and if you want to meet all those, I mean, go for it. You need to vote for it, and that's your free choice to do.
Keith, it depends on who owns the street. If you give a speeding ticket on 199, the state gets the lion's share.
That would be
if you're
true,
on a
yeah.
county road,
Yeah,
and then so forth.
Yeah.
It's America, self-determination. If you decide that's what you want to do, great, put it on the ballot. As a matter of fact, you could have an advisory question, non-binding, ahead of time to try to see what people think about it. Except there's a state law that says that you can't put an advisory question on the ballot. Now, why is that? So if you bring us something, you say, we'd like to have an advisory question, we'd like to dip our toe in the water. If we're honorable commissioners, we'll say, great, just bring us X number of signatures, we'll put it on there for you, because we're your public servants, right? There's no reason that we can't do that. No, it's against the law. No, it's not. So, yeah, I'm totally in favor of you deciding we're on our own anyway, and you've known that for a generation.
Everyone said it, representative form of government, it's up to the citizens of the community if they want to put a taxing district in it. But when you're looking at that, think about other options. We're not really good at thinking outside the box. We tend to throw money at problems thinking we'll fix it. And I just was running some rough stats. The current sheriff contract is 12 hours a day. That's what they've negotiated with the union. Sheriff Daniels has reduced that to 10 hours a day for morale. You have to work within the values of this community, and they are different throughout the county. That's why I think a representative board to interface with the commissioners is important. It takes 5 patrol deputies to staff 1 car 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So with a taxing district, you're looking at immediately, depending on your level of coverage that you like, you want 5 deputies. And I think exploring other options. I would like to see, and I think it's been successful, it's been shown around the world in war zones, if you take a community watch and a neighborhood watch, know your neighbor, if everybody on that street is watching, you truly are the first responder. And you start calling, there's Nextdoor app. Everyone's got smartphones today, look at Nextdoor. If you look at that, you start communicating back and forth, you're the first eyes and ears. Resident deputies here can reduce that response time instead of coming down from the city.
Community watch is definitely the way to go. The only thing I will caution you from my experience is taxing districts. I don't favor taxing districts, and the reason I don't favor taxing districts because they're forever. Usually with a built-in 3% increase a year, and it goes on your property. And then if you don't pay your property, the deputy will come with a gun in his hip and take away and evict you from your own property and take your property away, and you'll be out in the street. So it's taxing district. I like levies. You vote a 3-year levy and a 4-year levy in, and if that sheriff isn't doing a good job, it sunsets in 3 years, and then you vote another one in if you want. Or if you want a taxing district, it has to have sunset clause in there. So in 3 years or 4 years it sunsets, and you vote it in again. But you have to be very careful that you don't go with a taxing district because it's forever, and with a building increase, and it all goes on your property. And I mean, yeah. Dan DeYoung is, he's rich. He can afford more property taxes, but a lot of you not. So, not all of us got a lot of money they can afford to spend another $200-300 a year on property taxes.
About 2 months ago, I attended one of the community visioning meetings that was at the high school, and I was very impressed with the cohesiveness here in the Illinois Valley. And if the residents feel like they want a taxing district, I would be in favor of it. I would say gather some signatures, take it to the city council, have the city council.
Wait a minute, let me explain. To all of you, the Illinois Valley consists of more than the city of Cave Junction. Right, so I'd like to just clarify that for all of you.
Yeah, but although the city council is the governing body of Cave Junction.
And Cave Junction, I think, has a population, what, about 1,200, something like that?
17. Can she finish her question, and then we can tell her she's wrong.
Okay. I'm just saying that's one, it's one,
it's a tiny part of the
one way to show the commissioners that their support is having the city council recommend it and having a poll of the community that you want, draw the boundaries of where you want that district to be, and gather signatures and present those to the commissioners and ask that they put it on the ballot.
Tony knows what she's talking about here in this particular topic about it, the 2020 visioning. The people that I run into, with the exception of Seligman, don't mind paying more in law enforcement taxes, because if we get what we think we need. As it is, when we're fully funded, the average response time was what, an hour 17, roughly, which is natural. So if you take the Illinois Valley Fire District, which is already, the infrastructure is there, you add on 5 deputies, and you have one person, you could deputize some of the firefighters, put them through the school, so you've got backup. we could do it in a cost-effective way where we do it. We are so lucky, and I'm sure that you people in rural Metro have the same, but we have the greatest fire chief in the world. And I have full respect that if we do that, he'll be able to at least get things going in the right direction. The fire district can put an advisory ballot question on the ballot if it's for the Illinois Valley Fire District tax resident, whatever. So.
May I respond?
Yeah, well, you like, no, no, Mr. Trump, just because I talked about you doesn't mean you get a talk. Tony, go ahead and finish.
I just wanted to add to that. My undergrad degree is group behavior, and I've helped several groups either defeat levies or pass levies. I know a lot about how to bring together a group and get consensus and move something forward. And I was the co-sponsor of the animal shelter levy, which passed at 62%. It was the only levy that's passed in 15 years in the county. So, you know, I can help you on your project if you'd like.
All right.
Let Mark.
Well, Mark's time is tomorrow night. Tonight's night is yours.
Yeah, but you slammed him and
No, I didn't slam him.
Yes, you did.
No, well, I'll tell you what, if you guys want Mark to take over or talk, let's do it. Out of fairness, I'll say the same thing tomorrow, and then Mark will have his opportunity to respond.
Mark needs to go and smoke his reefer outside.
Anyway, barring any more questions, I think we'll call this a wrap. Thank you for playing along. Second night's generally a little smoother from my part anyway. So thanks for coming, candidates. Thank you very much for coming. I know most of you, but for Harriet and Nathaniel, it's nice to meet you.